Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Worldview. My name is Chris Greco. I will be your host for the next 30 minutes, talking about countries that maybe you've heard of, maybe you haven't heard of, different geographical, cultural aspects, exports, imports, things that happen that actually link them to us, the United States, as well as the Western world. So it's very, very important to understand how these countries, where they exist, why they exist, what happened in there a little bit in their past, and why it is that they're so important in our lives in the United States. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. First of all, we got to show you the world as it is. So, we're going to show you the world and what we're going to be talking about today. So, this is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about Slovenia, not necessarily in that order, Croatia, and then a place called Bosnia and Herzegovina. In fact, the name is so big that I have to get all the way up here just so you can see it. So, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, and Slovenia. Now, those that were around 30 some years ago, Bosnia and Herzegovina, there was a big problem there. And in fact, it was so big, it was basically called the Balkan crisis and the Bosnian crisis, whatever you want to call it. I was in the military at that time, and I had direct influence. Some dealings with that Balkan crisis, and we formed a group of NATO individuals, of which I was the director, and we did a lot of things having to do with Bosnia. So it was really a neat mission. Unfortunately, I can't share that much with you, so I'll just have to let that go. But basically, that's what we're going to talk about today. These three areas: Bosnia, Croatia, and Slovenia. And you notice where we're going to on this. This is former Yugoslavia part two. And the reason it's part two is because we already talked about Serbia, that area, and Kosovo, and how those areas, Serbia and Kosovo, really had a hard time with trying to interrelate. And the same thing happened with Serbia and Bosnia Herzegovina. It's because there was a lot of Serbs everywhere. There were Serbs here, there were Serbs in Serbia, there were Serbs in Kosovo. So there's a lot of Serbs in these different areas, and that's where all these different situations had issues. So and we'll talk about that with the historical aspects. Now, everything comes from a World Factbook, and just to let you know, and I think this is important. World Factbook is the CIA.gov. You go to CIA.gov, you go to the World Factbook, and it's always there. So don't ever sweat that. www.cia.gov. Go to World Factbook, and you'll get everything that you see here, or you're going to see here from the standpoint of of what we're talking about. So let's get started. Former Yugoslavia. Now, this is interesting because basically, when I first came in the Air Force in the 70s, Yugoslavia was its own country. It was basically run by a man by the name of Tito, Marshal Tito, and he was a World War II head of the resistance against the Nazis. And Yugoslavia was a very, very powerful country from the standpoint of resistance. And I go over this over and over and over again, but it's really important to understand that they held up the Nazis' panzer divisions trying to take over Yugoslavia, and it was a very, very, very strong resistance effort in Yugoslavia, stronger than many other countries. As a matter of fact, Alistair MacLean, uh, um, who did things like the Guns of Navarone and Where Eagles Dare, things like that. Sir McClare, he did a book called Partisans, and that book uh, goes into some of the missions that these partisans did against the Nazis in World War II. Now, as a result of that, afterwards, after World War II, then Marshal Tito kind of took Yugoslavia and formed it underneath him. So that's basically what happened. Sorry about that, little COVID cough. So let's start with Croatia. Now, just again, to not be overly burdensome here, but just this is Croatia. Now look where Croatia is, right? Croatia is right here, right along this coastline. There's Italy right here. So here's NATO right here, and yet there was Yugoslavia all in here, including this coastline right along what they call the Adriatic Sea, right in this area. So where we were, and when I was in the Air Force and we were doing intelligence, whatever else, we were at a place called San Vito dei Normanni Air Station, which was located in Brindisi. So as you can see, we were awfully close to basically a communist country, Yugoslavia being that communist country. Very interesting, actually. Interesting time to be in intelligence. So this is Croatia, and that's the first one we're going to talk about. We'll talk about Slovenia next, and then we'll talk about Bosnia and Herzegovina. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and we are going to make that happen. Now, Croatia, part of Yugoslavia after World War I. Now, World War I, again, you had these world wars, right? And after world wars, everything kind of took a, kind of meshed in, all these countries and different things happened after World War I because the Austro-Hungarian Empire basically broke up. And because it broke up, all of a sudden you had all these countries that formed Yugoslavia. And that's what happened after World War I. Boom, you had part of Yugoslavia. They fought the Serbs even after Croatia had their independence in 1991 because there was Serbian influence within Croatia. Well, they finally drove the Serbs out. They are now part of NATO and the EU. Think about that. Croatia, part of NATO and the EU, and the European Union. Natural resources, oil, bauxite. Again, I've gone over bauxite again and again and again. Major source, a resource that's needed for aluminum. If you don't have bauxite, you ain't got aluminum. That's the way it goes. Iron ore, calcium, gypsum wallboard. Remember that? Yeah, that's it. Asphalt, silica, very important. Silica is not just used; it's also used as a way of preventing humidity. So these packets that you're not supposed to eat. When you get things, that's inside there is silica. Mica, which is a very strong surface element from mica. That's salt and hydropower. Population, approximately 4 million. Now remember, there's 8 million people in New York City. Got 4 million people here in the country. 63%, over 63% are under 54 years old. That's an important part. And I go over that again and again with these different countries, but I think that's important you never underestimate that. That generation has got 63% of the population. Very important. Ethnic group, major one is Croat. Language, major language is Croatian. It's also the official language. Religion, over 86% of the people are Roman Catholic, which is interesting. That's also interesting. Over 3 doctors per 1,000 people, which is really interesting because they get major countries that don't have 3 doctors per 1,000 people. Air pollution, water pollution, all present. There's 24 political parties. And remember, when I talked about political parties, the number of political parties, especially when you have a lot of political parties, tends to correlate, not cause, but correlate a possible problem with political instability. And then you have export and import. So they export to Italy, Germany, Slovenia, B&H, which is Bosnia and Herzegovina, which we're going to talk about, Austria and Serbia, refined oil, packaged medicine, cars, vaccines, and lumber. They import from Italy, Germany, Slovenia, which is next door, Hungary, that's not quite next door, but it's close, Austria, crude oil, cars, refined oil, packaged medications, and electricity. So it's interesting how that works. 41% of the electricity is from fossil fuels. Almost 32% is from hydropower. Very, very interesting how that works. It's almost half and half. Boundary disputes with Bosnia and Herzegovina as well as Slovenia, which these disputes are decades old. These things have to do with, at the point in time when you get independence, and all of a sudden you get rivers and different islands. Those types of things are common in disputes from that standpoint. Drug trafficking and cocaine. They use the country, Croatia, as a transit point for Western Europe. That's a lot of areas in Southwest Asia. And we've already talked about Southwest Asia, but I can show it to you. Just let me show it to you real quick here. So you have Southwest Asia, which is literally, right? So is Germany, blah, blah, Ukraine, blah, blah, here. And then all of a sudden you have Georgia, Azerbaijan. But if you keep going this way and you keep moving this way, all of a sudden um, remember, this is Saudi Arabia in that area, and here you start having Central Asia here, right? You have Afghanistan. Yeah. So what's happening is that is coming over from Central Asia all the way across, right? All the way across to Turkey. Turkey is a transit point. It goes up across here and then goes into here. Or what people do is they'll come in through the Black Sea, or they'll come in through the Med, get it to this point, get it to here, take it through the Med, and then all of a sudden they either get it through Italy into Europe, or they get it through Greece, up through this area of the Balkans, up into Central and Western Europe. So that is, I mean, it's doesn't look like it's that close, but it is relatively close, and it's a good transit point. Okay, this is the size of Croatia. We're talking about between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, and it's not all that big. It's not all that big. Zagreb is the capital, and this is what we had. Now Dubrovnik was interesting enough. Dubrovnik was part of Yugoslavia. It was a big, big, big port. So Croatia got that port. So that's basically it for that. Now, Slovenia is the next country, very small, formed Yugoslavia with Croatia and Serbia. So Croatia, Serbia, and Slovenia got together and formed Yugoslavia after World War II, after World War I, right? So then all of a sudden, they had a short war with Serbia, and they attained their independence in 1991. They're also a member of NATO and EU. Very important, right? Very important for the economic growth, all that stuff. Natural resources include lignite, which is a very important coal. It's called lignite because it's very flammable, very good coal. Lead, zinc, hydropower, force, and stone, building stone, that type of area. Flooding and earthquakes are present within Slovenia, which is interesting to note because that's important from a natural disaster point of view. Population about 2 million. Almost 50% of this population is between 15 and 54 years old. So again, remember that. Remember those facts. Important. Ethnic groups. Slovene is the majority. Language, Slovene is official. Religion, Catholic, about 58%, and unspecified, which was interesting to me, about 23%. 23% are unspecified religion. Over 3 doctors per 1,000 people. Again, right? Big. This is good. There's good doctor person relationship ratio. Air pollution, water pollution, both present. Because look at the exports, right? There's 10 political parties, which not that many political parties, but still a lot. Export packaged medicines, cars, refined petroleum, electricity to Germany, Italy, Croatia, Austria, France, and Switzerland. So you're refining petroleum. When you're doing that, there's going to be air pollution and water pollution created as a result of that refining. Right? The refineries really do produce a lot of pollution. Import, packaged medication, cars, refined oil, delivery trucks. That's important, right? Because you got to get your stuff to port or to another country. From Germany, Italy, Austria, Switzerland, and China, which is interesting. So 27% of electricity is from fossil fuels, 27% from nuclear, and 2% from solar. So it's almost a split between fossil fuels and nuclear, which is nuclear is very, very important from this standpoint. Minor transit point for cocaine and heroin from Southwest Asia to West Europe. Remember, I just went through that. Southwest Asia from Afghanistan, especially poppies from Afghanistan, heroin, cocaine, all that stuff. It's packaged through. So that's Slovenia. I mean, we're talking a very, very, very small country here. Washington D.C. to Baltimore, and Charlottesville to Baltimore. That's about the size of this thing. It's very small. They state it's about the size of New Jersey. That's probably about right. If you take New Jersey up here, take that, put that in there, that's probably about right. So that's Slovenia. Very, very small country. But but not inconsequential. That's the important part. Now we come to the main actor, right? Bosnia and Herzegovina. And by the way, I always put in uh, the needs here from the standpoint of the citation. Uh, so I want to, when you take a look at this and you take a look at the citation, it will give you exactly where you need to go, and it gives you so much more information. I'm just touching the topsoil on this information. The CIA has done an extraordinary job of being able to very detail each one of these countries. They've taken a lot of work on this. As an analyst has taken a lot of time putting forth effort to make this thing happen. So I think that's important to understand. Okay, so anyways, they wanted independence, right? Bosnia and Herzegovina, but the Serbs, again, when we have this situation, we talk about the Serbs. We talk about the Serbs. Remember, we talked about them with the Serbs versus Kosovo, the Serbs versus whatever. Bosnia and Herzegovina is no different. So basically, what happened is that the Bosnian Serbs resisted. So the Bosniaks and the Croats, they decided agreement, and finally, in 1995, agreement with the Serbs in Dayton, and then followed by 1996 agreement in Paris. Of course, all agreements are signed in Paris, duh. But I don't know. Somehow, anyways, I'm writing a book about the French and the things that they've done in the past with us, the United States, and things like this. There's always a peace treaty in Paris, isn't there? It's interesting how that all works. Anyways, sorry, getting off the subject. Natural resources include coal, iron ore, antimony. Very important. And a lot of people sit there and they go, what is antimony, and what does it do, right? And I've covered this before, but I'd be more than happy to cover it again. I think you have a situation. It's a situation where it's uh, it has poor electrical and conductive properties, right? Which in some cases you sit there and say, um, what's it used for? It's interesting because antimony is actually used in bullets, so it's very hard, and because it's hard, it makes the bullets harder. So I mean, it's kind of sad, kind of sad in that area, but it's really important from the standpoint um, of doing what needs to be done to be able to make ammunitions, which is sad, but that's basically what it is. So that's important when we talk about antimony. Bauxite, talked about that. Copper, lead, zinc, chromite, important in chrome steel. Cobalt. Cobalt is extreme. I mean, cobalt is used in different types of metallurgy, and it's very important because again, it's got hardness to it. Manganese used in most of our electronics. Nickel, clay, gypsum, salt, sand. Interesting enough, timber and hydropower. Population. It's about 4 million. Over half are between 15 and 54 years old. Ethnic groups, Bosniak, Serb, Croat are major groups. Interesting enough, right? Bosniak and Serb are your major groups. Bosnian, Serbian, Croatian, main languages. Bosnian, the most here. Religions. You have Muslim, Orthodox, and Roman Catholic main religions, Muslim being the most. Over 2 doctors per 1,000 people. Again, we've been talking about 3, now it's 2. Air pollution, deforestation. Whenever you talk about timber aspects, unless you go back and plant, or you do massive cutting, you're going to have deforestation. Illegal logging, because of course timbers it can be expensive. Uh, Inadequate wastewater treatment, as well as landmines. There are landmines that are in the country as a result of the Serbian, Croatian, Bosnian conflict that happened. There's still landmines there, and that same thing's going to happen in Ukraine. There's going to be landmines in Ukraine. The Russians are going to set them, and they're going to forget them, and they're trying to dig them out as much as possible. 30 political parties. They export electricity, seating. I am assuming that seating means things like literally chairs. chairs for office, chairs for cars, things like that. Leather shoes, furniture, insulated wiring to Germany, Italy, Croatia, Serbia, Austria, and Slovenia. So I just think that's interesting. They trade with the countries that they're basically don't even like. But hey, it's money, right? Imports, refined oil, cars, packaged medicines, coal, electricity from Croatia, Serbia, Germany, Italy, Slovenia, and China. The first country, whenever I list a country like Croatia here, Germany here, that's the percentage is the most from that country or to that country. Over 62% of electricity from fossil fuels. The rest is from hydropower. I just think that is so interesting. 62% is from fossil fuels, the rest from hydropower, 35% from hydropower. Some problems with terrorist groups. Their Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the Quds Force, is terrorist group is present in the country. It could be because the main religion is Muslim, but I don't want to make any correlation between a religion and a terrorist group. I don't think that's really fair from that standpoint, and also it kind of puts a label on that religion as being a major contributor to a terrorist group, and I don't think that that's fair. I don't think that that's right. But I just point that out. Drug trafficking of cocaine predominant in the area because they transit to Europe, just like Croatia, just like different areas. And that's what life goes. That's how life goes on. This is Bosnia and Herzegovina right here. So you see, it's not that big of a country. I mean, it takes up some states here, probably about as big as Maryland, Delmarva Peninsula here. But I mean, it's Banja Luka was a major city when I dealt with that crisis, along with Sarajevo and Mostar. So there was a lot of battling, a lot of combat that was going on in this country when Bosnia and Herzegovina was going on there. So that's basically what's going on with that area. And this is important to understand is when we talk about Croatia and we talk about this area, I think that this is important because remember, in Croatia, you have Ukraine is here, Hungary is here, Croatia is here. So what's happening is that you have people that are trying to get out of Ukraine, and they're going transient in Hungary, and they're trying to get Croatia is picking them up. So, and remember also that Croatia is mostly Roman Catholic, Orthodox, whatever you want to call it. And although they're not the same per se, but Croatia's here, so you have a lot of people that are moving through Ukraine, Croatia. So that is when we talk. So the next time we're going to talk about this area in here, Albania, Macedonia, North Macedonia, and even Bulgaria, because I think it's important to bring that in. And then maybe we'll talk about Greece. But Albania and North Macedonia, we're going to definitely hit both those countries to finish out the Yugoslavian area, because the Yugoslavian area was made up of basically this area from Slovenia across here, across Croatia, Serbia in that area here, and then right around here all the way down to here. So that's what we're talking about. And if Montenegro, and we also have to hit Montenegro next time also. So we're going to hit Serbia and Montenegro, and no, we hit Serbia. So we're going to hit Montenegro, and we're going to hit North Macedonia and Albania. Albania is very, very important in this whole area, and this because the ethnic Albanians were the ones that basically went into Kosovo. We already talked about Kosovo. So that about does it, folks. And I really appreciate the fact that you listened, you tuned in. This is something important. And when we talk about the Balkans, we talk about Yugoslavia, we talk about all these different areas. This is something that you need to really take in, because these countries produce some things that are needed by the United States and as well as Europe. And it's interesting how that this is almost a constant trade aspect between Europe and the Balkans, what they call the Balkans, which is in this area. And also, it's very, very important to understand what Bosnia and Herzegovina is talking about, because I think that's important aspects also. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and call it a day for the worldview. And please, 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 if you have any questions, you have anything whatsoever, you can contact me through www.grectech.com. You can contact me through that way, or you can contact me through our email, which is candr@statisticssleuth.com. We check that email periodically, so we'll be able to do what needs to get done with that. And that's our email for just about every show. If there is any other questions or anything else, please feel free to let me know. We're more than happy to take any questions, make a show out of it, whatever you guys want. So thank you so much for listening, and thank you definitely for watching the show. And we really hope that what happens is that because of this show, because we try to do what needs to get done from the show, that you will be a much better geographically literate individual, that you can take a look at and you can see the countries in your mind, and you can you kind of have a difference between what is Southeast Asia and what is Southwest Asia, and what is Central Asia, and what is the Mid East, and what is North Africa, and what all these different regions, what the countries that encompass that. Very, very important. So folks, until next time, this is Chris Greco signing off for the Worldview. Thanks, and have a happy new year.